A Magyar Szabadságharcos Rádió utolsó felhívását intézi a szabad világhoz. Világ népei, az 1000 éves Magyarország őrtornyain kezdenek kihújni az utolsó lángok. A szovjet hadsereg megpróbál szétzúzni bennünket. Páncélosaik és ágyúik Magyarországon dübörögnek át, asszonyaink, anyáink, leányaink veszélyben vannak. Mentsétek meg lelkeinket! SOS! SOS! Lehet, hogy most szólal meg utoljára az utolsó szabad magyar rádió. Világ népei, hallgassatok meg! Segítsetek! Ne tanáccsal, ne szavakkal, hanem tettel! Ne feledjétek, hogy a szovjet barbár támadását nem lehet feltartóztatni. A következő áldozatok ti lesztek. Segítsetek! SOS! Világ népei, az igazság és szabadság nevében segítsetek! A hajó süllyed, a lángok kihújnak, óráról órára sötétebbek lesznek az árnyak Magyarország felett. Halljátok meg kiáltásunkat, nyújtsatok testvéri kezet, mentsetek meg, segítség, segítség, SOS, Isten veletek és velünk.
What we are doing this evening is getting reports in from our correspondents overseas and then asking them questions to amplify those reports. Are you standing by? Can you hear us?
Yes, we are reading you very well in New York and are prepared to go ahead with anything you want to know.
Fine, Dave. Now, I just wanted to tell you that we here in New York have reports from Budapest which are perhaps slightly later than the one you had. The agency's report here that Russian tanks have gone down one of the main streets and have reached the Parliament building, that Russian troopers have entered the Parliament building where Prime Minister Imre Nagy's government has been in permanent session, and the implication is that Russian troopers have taken Imre Nagy and the Hungarian revolutionary government prisoner. Radio Budapest has gone off the air after a tragic closing. I think I can read it to you here. The Budapest operator said, "We shall leave our post, we shall leave our post. Goodbye, friends, goodbye, friends. God save our souls, the Russians are too near." Then the radio went dead.
Dick, this takes us back to 39 and 40, doesn't it?
The lights are certainly going out. The light of freedom that was lit 12 days ago in Hungary is certainly seems to be going out. Yes, we have another bulletin here, a United Press dispatch. Soviet armored forces seized Budapest and captured the government of Prime Minister Imre Nagy. I imagine that we will hear nothing more from the Budapest government until János Kádár, the quisling of the Soviet Union, issues some pronouncement in the name of the communist government in Budapest. Now, Dave, you said that the French government and the French people felt terribly frustrated because they could not go to the assistance of the Hungarians. Is there any feeling in France that if war is to be averted in the long run, that some diplomatic step can be taken?
Yes, they feel that diplomatic steps must be taken as quickly as possible. The French thought all along, Dick, and I think this is very important, that the Hungarian Revolution, unlike the Polish, went too far, too fast. They felt that had there been some sort of a national communist leader in Hungary, as Gomulka in Poland and Tito in Belgrade, that the Russians might have been persuaded to hold off. but that since the Hungarians showed their hand so very quickly, and since some of the strongest anti-Soviet forces of the pre-war era were coming back into what seemed to be a very hostile anti-Soviet government, that the Soviets would be forced to take this kind of counteraction. The French have been alarmed for the last 4 days about what's happening in Budapest, more alarmed indeed, I think, as you and I discussed the other night, than about the Egyptian affair. Therefore, they think that something must be done. This sounds like appeasement, I know, but that's not the mood here, really. They feel that to avoid a general war, there must be diplomatic action of some kind, something like Mendes France's proposal for a Big Four general security meeting on Europe. Something that will reassure the Russians that they are not going to be attacked, that this is not an anti-Soviet regime, and that they can afford to allow some measure of liberty in Eastern Europe.
Dave, this is Dallas Townsend.
Yes, Dallas.
As you may have heard, the Security Council is supposed to go into session about 11 minutes from now.
Yes.
On the Hungarian situation. Do you think there's any particular confidence among the French people, among French officialdom, in the Security Council's ability to deal with the Hungarian crisis at this point?
Well, unfortunately, Dallas, let's be frank about it, the French go to the Security Council with anything but clean hands. They've slapped the United Nations in the face and have taken unilateral action in Egypt. It can hardly be expected that they can count on the Security Council to take action in Budapest. I've thought all along that the French action in going into Egypt without consulting its principal allies or the United Nations was going to give the Russians precisely the kind of pretext they needed to do this in Budapest. And I think the lead must be taken by the United States of America because our allies do not come to the debate with clean hands.
Well, Dave, you say pretext. Do you think that the Russians were actually waiting for this particular moment when the British and the French were involved in Egypt to strike back in great force in Hungary, as they now seem to be doing?
Only partly, yes, I think to some extent. I think what forced their hand actually was the development of the Hungarian Revolution itself. There seemed to be a moment when the Russians had more or less made their peace with the idea that they would have to give some liberty to Hungary. But then when the Hungarian Revolution started to move more rapidly away from a communist government to a democratic government and even to some extremely conservative forces, then the Russians became alarmed. I think that a couple of days went by while they reconsidered their policy, and at that moment, since the UN had been already defied by the French and the British, and they were deeply involved in the Middle East, then the Russians had the sort of situation where they could move. I think they might have hesitated if the Anglo-French operation had not gone on.
But, Dave, wouldn't you say that they are risking a very unfavorable reaction among the common people of Western Europe in attacking a theoretically independent, nominally independent government in Hungary, as they now seem to be doing?
Oh, yes. I think the Russians have now taken a calculated risk. They've torn off their mask of the champions of people's liberty and independence, and this is just a naked power politics by the Soviet Union, and apparently they're willing to give up all of their propaganda line and show themselves for what they really are, because, I can only guess this, they consider Hungary and their lines of communication running from there to the Soviet Union as important enough for them to dominate it at any cost.
Dave, getting back to the western side of this problem for a moment, the sense of your broadcast and that of broadcasts we've had from Paris, from London and Vienna this evening, has been that the Anglo-French operation in the Middle East has, in part at least, given the Russians a pretext to go ahead in Hungary because it has brought force back into international politics. It has also distracted the attention of the world to a large extent from developments in Hungary, and it has also driven a breach into the Western alliance, into the unity of the West, which has been perhaps one of the great deterrents for Soviet aims over the past few years.
That's very well put, Dick. Yes, that's exactly how I see it here.
Now, my question is this. If the Middle East intervention has done all this, do you see any sign that France especially, and France and Britain perhaps in the slight extension, would be willing now to call off the Middle Eastern operation and turn around and face a threat which is closer to home and may very well amount to a far greater threat?
I shouldn't think so here in France. I would say for two reasons, and again, this is guesswork. One, the French are determined to go through with this Middle East operation because they consider it to be vitally connected with the Algerian rebellion, which to them is very close to home indeed, and the greatest crisis that they face. Secondly, I believe that they'd hesitate to do that because it would seem or give a promise to their own people here that they were pulling out of the Middle Eastern thing in order to be able to make a move in Eastern Europe. And as I judge the temper of the French people today, I think that would alarm them very much indeed. I think there is great sympathy here for the Hungarian people.